Hey guys, Jack here, and thanks for watching this episode of the BigJackFilms reviews for the 20th anniversary of Sam Rami's Spider-Man. And man, does it feel good to be back after... this thing put me out of commission for a month. But of course, before we get started, a big thank you to those who helped make this episode possible. That of course goes to Jack Voigt, David SKYWALKER, and HEROLD of VORTOS, who provided character roles on this episode. All their links to their YouTube and social media platforms will be in the description down below. And of course, a big thank you to all of our sponsors on Patreon. If you want to go support the channel, just $1 more will get you access to all of our content, as well as other special features. Your contributions have been essential in keeping our channel around, especially given we had to take a month off, and YouTube's algorithm has not been in our favor. So all your support is gratefully appreciated, and we can't wait to get back to work on a ton of videos for you to enjoy. In fact, we're kind of working on a few as we speak, so that's why I've been kind of a little busy lately. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the show. The following is a fan-based video review under fair use. Spider-Man is owned by Sony Pictures, Marvel Studios, the Walt Disney Company, Stan Lee, and Sam Rami. Please support the official release and streaming services. To know the lady has an acquired taste in backup.
Don't worry, bring the party to you.
Thanks.
We'll meet again. Commence Order 9201. The invasion can proceed faster.
Because the power cells are unlimited supplies, getting to Unit 205 is our only hope.
Actually, you might have someone who can help with that.
You just keep smiling for me, okay?
Harvey's still out there. I got your message about the fuel supply you need. It will take time to replicate more now that we're on high alert here.
You might want to get in touch with the League to let them know you're out of retirement.
I think they already know I'm on the case.
Now that I have enough juice in the power cells to hold off for now, might as well find a new place to set up a smaller base of operation. Well, it's a good thing Bruce gave me enough cash to keep me stable for now. Oh, the wonders of fictional technology. God bless you, 18. Activate Capsule Corp feature memory drive. Alright, let's make some Big Jack filmmaking magic! Whoa! Wow! That's what I'm talking about! Oh, Nelly! They even managed to recreate the old place as good as new. But until I get a better FTT by finding Unit 205, I'm gonna have to keep this place under wraps for the time being. Until then, maybe this wrapping comes with a form of webbing. Oh! Hey guys, it's BigJackFilms here, and welcome to another review! Well, time to talk about Marvel! Gaining its shared storyline palette as the Marvel Universe in 1961, created by Stan Lee, Marvel Comics has become an empire to be reckoned with in the pop culture landscape, and since I opened the can of worms with the DC Comics all the way back with my review of Man of Steel, I figured I'd finally give attention to its massive rivals when it comes to movies. And there's no denying that Marvel has become the dominant force in Hollywood blockbusters for well over 20 years with the creation of the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse, starting mostly in 2008 with Iron Man, and a triumph with the Avengers movies, bringing Marvel's heroes together in a shared continuity filled with trials and teamwork. Now I know nowadays Marvel's first step was with the likes of X-Men, Blade, and Howard the Duck when it comes to film.
You think I might find happiness in the animal kingdom, Ducky?
Like they say, Dal, love's strange. We could always give it a try.
George, what the fuck, man? But for my first go with Marvel, I want to start with the hero who introduced me to the universe. And much like many before me, the first was Marvel's postered icon with a web-slinging New Yorker in a red and blue gimp suit simply known as Spider-Man. First appearing in Amazing Fantasy number 15, Spider-Man is Marvel's Mickey Mouse, before being bought by Mickey Mouse. In short, my intro to Spider-Man was one of his most beloved incarnations with the 90s Fox Kids cartoon, and looking back on it, it's still a frickin' awesome series that sparked my interest in the character and the massive world Marvel is known for. Not to mention the amount of merchandise, Happy Meals, a theme park ride at Islands of Adventure, and of course, that rockin' theme song that never gets old. Overall, Spider-Man is my favorite hero in the Marvel Comics, and makes for a great companion piece with my love for Batman and DC Comics. And much like Tim Burton's Batman movies, the Wall Crawler got his own major motion picture with a Danny Elfman score and a cinematic universe to tap. And for its 20th anniversary, I figured we'd take a swing with a look back at Sam Raimi's 2002 adaptation, simply known as Spider-Man. As technically one of the first films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is the story of New York dweeb Peter Parker, played by Tobey Maguire, who's a nerdy high school photographer. He was orphaned as a child, raised by Uncle Ben, played by Cliff Robertson, and Aunt May, played by Rosemary Harris, bullied by jocks like Flash, played by Joe Mugolino, and can't confess his crush for his stunning neighborhood girl Mary Jane Watson, played by Kirsten Dunst. To say his life is miserable is an understatement. But while on an excursion to a laboratory, a runaway radioactive spider bites him, and his life changes in a way no one could have imagined. Peter acquires a muscle-bound physique, clear vision, ability to cling to surfaces, and climb all over walls, along with shooting webs from his wrist. But the fun isn't really gonna last, as an eccentric millionaire, Norman Osborn, played by Willem Dafoe, administers a performance-enhancing drug on himself, and his maniacal alter ego, the Green Goblin, emerges. Now Peter Parker has to become the web-slinging Spider-Man and take the Green Goblin to the task. Or else the Goblin will kill him as they come face to face and the war begins, in which only one of them will survive at the end. Now, much like everyone else, I highly praise the first Spider-Man film as an action marvel. no pun intended, in how much it changed the comic book landscape to what we see today, and 20 years later, I'm not gonna lie in saying the film has gotten better over time. To me, it and Sam Raimi's trilogy overall, I always felt were great adaptations of not only the comics, but in many ways a live-action version of the 90s cartoon of my childhood. Sure, it's not a masterpiece, but it's still a crowning achievement for the superhero genre, and its impact, much like Batman, is awe-inspiring from the classic coming-of-age story, impressive visual action scenes, and some heartwarming characters that all have deep emotional pieces to tell. Starting off with our title character in Spider-Man/Peter Parker. And there's no denying that Tobey Maguire is still to this day the definitive version of the classic comic book character. As Parker, he's an awkward, shy, but intelligent and educated bookworm of a nerd. But as Spider-Man, he's a tough-as-nails, wisecracking, and flexible hero to the people of Manhattan. And through the visual effects and production design, the film showcases a great introduction to the web-slinger in Hollywood. And his costume? Just awesome. It's why I feel it's a great adaptation of the 90s cartoon, feeling like it was ripped straight from the animation cells of the series. It is a reality breaker in of itself, and both Raimi and Maguire made it work 100%, giving the character some awesome moments, but also a character full of raw emotional reactions, choices, and tragedy to go along with it.
I have a father. His name was Ben Parker.
Tobey had a lot of weight to carry in bringing to life this role, and much like the film and Uncle Ben's line, he not only delivered great power, but delivered great responsibility in respecting the character for the fans and the audience. I know I've made fun of this incarnation in the past, but it was all in context in what I was bringing up in comparison, and that's nothing against Tobey's performance, because those emotional moments are actually pretty genuine and worth the praise to the actor himself, and personally, despite a wonderful performance of Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland later on, Tobey will always be the original and definitive cinematic Spider-Man to me.
This is my gift. Who am I? I'm Spider-Man.
But like every hero, he's not without his villain, and there's no denying that Willem Dafoe was born to play Norman Osborn, and his devilish alter ego, the Green Goblin. And he is having probably the most fun I've ever seen an actor on a film set. For the longest time, I've always thought Willem Dafoe and Christopher Walken were kind of one and the same, but it's clear it was more in Dafoe's portrayal of Norman Osborn, because as the Goblin, it's like the bastard love child of the Joker and Gollum. Funny, considering the Two Towers came out a few months later that same year, and both had a split personality scene that kind of mirrors each other.
You killed them. We killed them.
Master's my friend. You don't have any friends.
Now, a lot of people have issues with not necessarily Dafoe's performance as the Green Goblin, but more so in his suit, which many have bitched about it looking like something you'd see in Power Rangers, which... Really? Have you seen what Spider-Man looks like in comparison? For God's sakes, even Toei made a Power Rangers-esque Spider-Man series, even before something like Super Sentai took off. And that had a giant Spider-Mech! A Spider-Mech! I can't complain about that!
But you can't do this to me.
But back to the Goblin suit, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't see any problems with it. I kinda like the suit for how goofy, yet simple and somewhat terrifying it is. Sure, I prefer we got more facial acting from Dafoe as the Goblin, especially in the original designs of the mask, and it is something we got much later in No Way Home, but here, I don't mind the mask and the suit itself. Even the glider and the pumpkin bombs are pretty damn awesome.
We'll meet again, Spider-Man!
Willem Dafoe is a force to be reckoned with in any movie he's in, and next to the likes of Platoon among others, this is one of his best roles, and it's been rather hard to replicate that since. So major kudos to him playing Spider-Man's greatest nemesis and the Joker of the Marvel Comics. It's honestly no wonder why so many want Dafoe to play an Arkham Games adaptation of the Joker in a live-action feature. Though, I do question whether or not these two would ever cross paths in the future. Makes you think.
Mein Herr, wir haben einen Kontakt und Fridge von mir nur zum McMillan 02.
Bring it before me.
Ja, mein G bitte.
pleasant of you to join us!
Misery, that's what you are, Gabby. I got your message about this alliance you want me and my universe to join with.
Yes. For the Great War is returning at a fast pace, and soon our own portal will be able to bring in all evildoers to our backing call. My Gablor scouts have informed me traces of Asgardian energy was traced in the woods where the warrior was last reported. It is clear he is in league with your enemies within your universe. We cannot let that faction stop us.
A chance to take out the Avengers, you say? What's in it for me?
Power, Norman. You once encountered Parker with the possibilities of multiverse technology.
If you need a job and you're willing to commute to another universe,
we can provide that for you. If we have the allegiance of the Cabal, including one god of mischief in your ranks.
You are very generous, my lord. Though that god is hard to track. How do you expect me to reach such a distance?
Consider this sample tech as a promise of payment. But before contacting that realm, Mr. Osborn, there's someone I'd like you to meet. For what is a kingdom of goblins without its court jester?
Well, if it isn't the Clown Prince of Crime.
But outside of the heroes and villains, what about the rest of the cast? Well, strap yourselves in, folks, because there's a few to talk about here, starting with our female lead, Mary Jane Watson. Now, while Kirsten Dunst does a wonderful job in playing the comic book crush of Peter Parker's life, her character, I'm not gonna lie, is a tad weak in some cases. Mostly in her attitude and her cliche portrayal of a supportive romantic lead and damsel in distress that Spider-Man has to constantly save in the vein of Lois Lane with Superman. But to Dunst's credit, she actually does a pretty good job, and I'm not gonna lie, she's really cute in this movie. Especially in that alleyway scene, cause hot damn!
Nice to have a fan.
Do I get to say thank you this time?
Speaking of, what an iconic scene with that upside-down kiss. A scene not in the comics, but became a historical moment for Spider-Man's legacy. And you know it's a historical event when several movies and TV shows would parody it for years to come.
Make out with me, you will.
There's the son of the Goblin with Harry Osborn, who starts off as a really charming and supportive best friend to Peter Parker, despite him trying to get his girl throughout the trilogy.
The taste. Strawberries.
But hey, that's James Franco in a nutshell for you, both as a character and in real life. I know some are pretty 50-50 on his portrayal here, but in the first movie, it's a decent performance, to say the least, though not one of my favorites personally. He fits among the many side roles in this movie, from Uncle Ben and Aunt May, who are wonderfully portrayed by Cliff Robertson and Rosemary Harris. Not to mention the vast amount of cameos from Bruce Campbell of the Evil Dead trilogy, who most have pointed out was originally supposed to be Mysterio in Spider-Man 4, let alone being Ash from Evil Dead in the Multiverse of Madness? Huh. Wonder how they're gonna fit that in.
It's over!
Radio comedian Jimmy Norton?
He stinks, and I don't like him.
And Xena Warrior Princess. No, seriously, that's Lucy Lawless making a cameo appearance in the movie. Not many people really bring that up, but it is actually really cool. Hell, Xena actually exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with the Multiverse of Madness. Seriously, there's an Easter egg in the background. Look it up.
Guy with 8 hands. Sounds hot.
So wait a minute, does that make not only Xena part of the MCU, but also the Kevin Sorbo Hercules? Meaning it's basically the Marvel Comics version of Hercules? Jesus, what kind of can of worms are you opening there, Raimi?
Multiverse is real.
Not to mention to the awesome team in the Daily Bugle, from Sam Raimi's brother Ted Raimi as Hoffman, and Elizabeth Banks as Betty Brant. before she became Rita Repulsa, and yeah, it's pretty repulsive. But let's be real, folks. It's time to talk about the real star of this franchise. There's no denying that one of the most perfectly casted actors in a comic book movie is none other than J.K. Simmons as the CEO of the Daily Bugle, J. Jonah Jameson. Which, yes, I'm also in the line of agreement on. This is easily the funniest character in any comic book movie, and Simmons just owns this fucking part. Which for Marvel, even in other reboots, has never had the balls to recast, because nobody could top his version. Even to this day, from video games and cartoons, as well as the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole, JK still provides the voice and performance as Jameson, which he enjoys doing every chance he gets. There are so many awesome lines he gives in this movie that it's hard to pick my favorites.
Tomorrow morning, Spider-Man, page 1 with a decent picture this time. Move Conway to page 7.
Crap, mega crap.
Call the patent office, copyright the name Green Goblin. I want a corner every time somebody says it. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous? And I'll make him infamous. You take the pictures, I'll make up the headlines, okay?
Spider-Man! I knew you two were in this together!
I make it page 8 and give him 10% off. I make it 5%.
That can't be done.
Get out of here!
From the costume, lines, delivery, and countless memes and YouTube poops created from this performance, it's easy to see why this is one of the best casted. So kudos to the entire production for giving us a pop culture gift for the entire world.
You don't trust anybody, that's your problem.
I trust my barber.
Not to mention the action scenes, tone, and effects work by Sony's own digital team. It felt like a live-action version of the cartoon come to life on the big screen. And 20 years later, all of it just looks absolutely perfect. From the Cape Crusader of Gotham to the Web Slinger of New York, Danny Elfman switches from DC to Marvel in composing the score to Spider-Man. While at first it felt similar to Batman, you do get used to it rather quickly on its own. Though hearing a compilation of both themes would be really cool to match with the one-shot comic book story Marvel and DC did over 20 years ago. His score combines a sense of gothic horror and heroism, which matches perfectly with the visuals. There are so many great moments in the score, from the opening credits and my personal favorite track, Farewell, which plays in the final scene. The soundtrack is easily available along with a companion album, which was common for a major summer blockbuster at the time, with several talented artists including Nickelback. Oh god, Nickelback! I'm just gonna be upfront, I really hate this band. Specifically the main singer. He's like if Nicolas Cage got a country accent and attempted to sing. It's honestly like sticking toothpicks in your eardrum. Cringing and painful.
Look at this photograph.
Oh, God, make it stop! It's cracking my spider sense of... So, the song presented in the film Hero is just awkward with the tone of the movie. You can kinda guess why this song was made, which we'll talk about briefly later, but yeah, I don't like this song at all. But the film does have the original 60s theme during the end of the credits, but Danny's score is where the music is at its best, and one of the greatest superhero themes in cinema history. Speaking of, the history of this film is as fascinating as the likes of Batman, with years of development held to get it off the ground, from studio heads, screenplays, and directors, with the first studio to take on the task was the infamous Cannon Films during the early 80s.
Within this unsuspecting city, history's greatest experiment creates tomorrow's greatest superhero, Spider-Man, the movie. A live-action spectacular directed by Joe Zito, based on the characters created by Stan Lee.
There were a few TV pilots and shows prior in the 70s, including the Japanese series and the tokusatsu genre, but nothing to write home about. When Cannon Films fell out and its first potential director, Roger Corman, and Tobe Hooper bailed, in fact, Roger Corman directed the first Fantastic Four movie, it eventually landed in the lap of none other than James Cameron in the 90s, with Leo DiCaprio rumored for the lead role.
But now that you've really pissed me off, I'm gonna finish her.
Language! Eventually, the production flipped again, and James Cameron abandoned ship to work on Titanic. Was that pun intended? And the rights went into limbo by the late 90s, with Marvel filing for a potential bankruptcy and selling its characters off to major Hollywood studios, with the Hulk extended ownership with Universal, X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Daredevil to Fox, Blade with New Line Cinema, which kind of makes it Warner Brothers, so wouldn't it be also a DC property? And Ghost Rider, along with all the rights to Spider-Man, went to Columbia TriStar, now known as SONY, which are all owned by Disney. There are many video essays on the early development on the film, which is worth a watch, so I won't repeat any more with what they probably said. When Rami was chosen as director, the movie and its sequels took many influences and inspiration from the original Superman movies with Christopher Reeve, and you could see many comparisons and parallels back to back in its story and characters. Which makes me wonder if Spider-Man 4 was just gonna take off more from Superman 4. That would have been awkward. Now, while this movie is pretty good as its own first major Marvel masterpiece, I will admit, it's not perfect. While a decent one-shot adaptation of the comics, much like Batman 89, it becomes a weakness in its plot. But unlike Batman killing the Joker and eventually the rest of the series growing as a character, Spider-Man's villains' biggest flaws in this and the original trilogy is that the villains ultimately kill themselves. While they can't live is really bugging to me, it comes down to Hollywood's rule of adapting comic books at the time by killing the villain of their movie to tie up any loose ends, just in case a sequel becomes impossible. Batman 89 gets a pass for being one of the first big comic book movies to condense it, and I'll admit it makes sense here given it was before the comic book boom was normalized as it is today. But there's some cases here where it's more bizarre, like the watered-down version of the death of Gwen Stacy in the film's climax with Mary Jane, which, I'll admit, while fun and making for an amazing Lego set, which I really want badly in creating a mock-up of Confrontation, is kind of as rushed as the actual Gwen Stacy death in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm not sure if this was the plan in the beginning, or an afterthought pickup to make the climax more impactful, but I think we know one reason why it was added. And that's this scene.
Come on up here, tough guy. I got a little something for you. Leave Spider-Man alone.
Oh yeah, I got something for your ass. You mess with Spidey, you mess with New York.
You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
I won't harp on it too much in comparison to other critics, but this scene feels like it was a pickup shoot after the events of 9/11, which the movie was well into post-production when the tragedy came to pass. In response, the studio had the World Trade Center removed from the film, and the movie's teaser trailer removed from theaters and the internet, not to mention the original teaser poster, which fetches high prices nowadays for original prints. And while kind of cringy in its dialogue, I mean, this is David Koepp we're talking about here.
It's you who's out, Gobby. Out of your mind.
For the time, it does fit for what was needed for the movie. After 9/11, America was under a state of fear and despair, so many movies were needed to promote a sense of hope and heroism to keep the world's optimism alive. Which is something we could use even now more than ever, and the movie really does showcase that, making it much more enjoyable. I really got nothing much else to say, and maybe someday I'll take a look at the sequels and other Marvel films, but for now, 20 years later, the original Spider-Man is still amazing. It's got a good, simple story, great production design and effects, the score is phenomenal, and the cast of characters adapts the comic book perfectly. Everything crawled into place at the right time, and to this day is one of the best Marvel films in its library. And in the overall Marvel Cinematic Universe / multiverse, it comes in at a solid but decent 8 out of 10. Sure, it's got some minor outdated CGI and some condensed storyline elements sprinkled here and there, but without this film, it's less than likely that Marvel would not be as massive as it is today, and after 20 years, the original Spider-Man is everything audiences needed as a feel-good summer web-slinging film for the silver screen. But of course, let me know your thoughts on Sam Raimi's Spider-Man in the comment section below. Do you think it still holds up 20 years later? Or do you think there's other adaptations of Spider-Man that did the comic books better? So until the next video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. This is BigJackFilms, signing off for now. Hey, Peter. Long time no see.
Hey, dude, how have you been? Huh. What's it been, like 15, 16 years?
It's been a few years, I'll give it that. I actually just bumped into one of my exes in Gotham.
Traveling back to the multiverse. I'm surprised I didn't see you pass by.
It's not important, Peter. And quite frankly, I need your help, given you're my only contact to the Marvel Universe. Stark and I got separated after my base was destroyed.
Yeah, he hasn't been here either. But maybe we could track him from here.
Thanks. Anyway, as I've been off-grid, I found something of your universe out in the woods. A miniature version of Mjolnir, of all things, Thor's weapon. It's clear this is legit forged from the works of Asgard, but I can't get a reading on who sent it. However, I might have use in harnessing its power.
Maybe Thor got a message that you were in trouble.
Unlikely. No separate fictional universes can sense others without access to the FDT. I already got contacts with the League. Send a message to S.H.I.E.L.D. Tell them we might need them. As many as we can.
Who?
The Avengers Initiative.